everybody. Thank you for joining us again. So challenge number 5, this is our very last one. Thank you so much for all your photos and all your videos. If you've been joining in from the Star Ward and then on to this one, I'm just in awe of all your parents, your carers, your teachers that have been helping you with these challenges as we've been through the whole lockdown experience together. Ellie was just saying, yes, my hair's changed. I started off, luckily managed to get a haircut, didn't I, Ellie? Just before lockdown, and now it's getting a bit long. I've got fingers crossed hairdressers might open up soon, but only when it's safe to do so, eh, Ellie? Okay, we're here with Fred. Fred's joined us again just to help us go over some of the treatments and also testing some symptoms for the 2 different types of illnesses we're going to talk about. You're very impatient. She's so impatient, children. Okay, she's saying, what are we talking about today? Well, today is all about heart attacks and strokes. And they're very similar, but also very different. Do you know why they're similar? Oh, she doesn't know. Does anyone know why they're similar? Oh, I wonder if she messaged a comment. Oh, you've changed your mind. You do know. She does. She says they're caused by blood clots. You are right. So one's caused by a blood clot on the way to the brain, and the other one is caused by a blood clot on the way to the heart or from the heart. So we're going to learn about both of them today, okay? Well, let's start off with a stroke. Now, a stroke, in fact, both of these illnesses are very serious, but let's talk about the stroke. The stroke is a life-threatening medical condition, Ellie, that happens when the blood supply is cut off to our brain, and our brain is here. That's the most important bit of my body, and probably yours, and also yours as well, because that's where all the control signals get sent from that make us wave and smile and make us work. Now the brain, up here, like all the other organs in the body, it needs oxygen and nutrients, and it's all supplied by the blood in order for everything to work correctly. And if the brain doesn't get that, then what's going to happen, Ellie? Then brain cells might start dying off. And then this could lead to, depending on which bit of the brain's affected, it could lead to some kind of disability, or unfortunately it might also lead to death. Now, as we said, Ellie, strokes are medical emergencies. The sooner the person receives treatment, the better. But sometimes with strokes, it's quite hard to tell when the onset time is. And he says, what does onset mean? Well, the onset time, that means the time it started, because sometimes people might wake up with a stroke that's already happened throughout the night. Now, if you do suspect a stroke, remember what number we're going to call? 999, and we're going to ask for an ambulance immediately, okay? Now, certain conditions and illnesses increase the risk of having a stroke, and they include diabetes. Remember, we talked about that in our last video, challenge number 4, diabetes. That could increase the chances. High cholesterol and high blood pressure can increase the chance of someone having a stroke. But just because you've got them doesn't mean you're going to have one, so please don't worry. Now, Ellie, I'm going to tell them. Very impatient. She keeps saying, well, how do I know if someone's having a stroke? Well, the symptoms of a stroke are as follows. And it's quite easy to remember this word. You've got to remember this word. I'm going to whisper to you. You remember that? Okay. The word is fast. So I want you to remember the word fast. Shout it back out to me. Fast. And each of those letters stands for something. So F stands for our pretty little faces. Yes, mine is pretty, Ellie. Okay, so F stands for face. A stands for arms. And S stands for speech. And T stands for time. Okay? Okay, so we're going to take each one of those letters and we'll talk about it in a little bit more detail. Now, Ellie, we've got to imagine Fred was a real person and is conscious, okay? F is going to stand for our lovely pretty face. So first of all, I'm going to be asking Fred if he can smile. Because what could happen, Ellie, when someone's had a stroke is that they might not be able to smile. And one side of the face might look a little bit different to the other side. So it has to be symmetrical. Do you remember that word? Symmetrical. Hopefully you've been doing that in your maths lessons. Symmetrical means it's the same as the other side. Okay, so we're going to ask him to smile and see if he can smile nicely and he's got a nice symmetrical face. If one side's a little bit dropped or drooping, then we're going to call 999. Also, The I might have dropped down slightly as well. So again, if we see that, we're going to call 999. Now, A stands for arms. So with arms, I'm just going to put you down, Ellie, just so I demonstrate. So come down over here and watch. So with arms, I'm going to lift them both up and see if they can hold them there. And if they can't hold them there, then you're going to suspect they're having a stroke. So they should be able to keep them there. Yeah, or I'm asking them to pull them towards me, push them away from me, and see if they can do that. Sometimes there might be a weakness in one of those arms. And if you do, what number are you going to call, Ellie? What number? 999. And then we're going to look at S. And S stands for, go on, shout it out. Shout out, Ellie. Speech. Well done. So with speech, sometimes we're very slurred, or just speaking a load of garble or a load of rubbish coming out. It doesn't really make sense. Obviously, we can't do that with Fred because he's not talking to us, is he? No. But always check their speech and see if they can respond back to you. And if they've got any problems with their speech, make sure we call 999, especially if it's very slurred or very slow and different to how it normally is, okay, Ellie? So that's F-A-S. What's next? T. Yeah, T for time. Now this is where it's very important. It's really important to act quickly. And the quicker you call 999 when you suspect those symptoms, the better this person has of a full recovery. Let's just recap, okay? What word do we need to remember with stroke? Fast. Yeah, remember, you've got to act fast. F stands for face. A for arms. S for speech. I'm hoping you'll mention that in your comments. And T, time to act. Okay? So that's a stroke. So that's a blood clot on the way to the brain that is causing some of the brain cells to be able to die. Now, the other one I want to look at today, the other type of illness that someone might have, is to do with the heart. And the heart sits here. People seem to think it sits on one side of the body. It really does sit in the centre of the chest. Imagine your heart is the size of your fist, and if I just place it here, then it does lean over to the left-hand side a little bit more, but it is here in the centre of the chest and leans over to be able to the left-hand side a bit more. Okay, so have a look at that on yourself and see if you can find out where your heart is. And we know our heart is working because we'll be able to feel it, Ellie. Do you know how we feel it? Go on, see if you can feel mine. Yeah, Ellie's trying to find my pulse now. And we find our pulse here. Don't know if you can find it. Is it a carotid pulse? Or maybe on your wrist you'll be able to find it. But always use two fingers. Never use your thumb to find that pulse. Always your two fingers. So here, if I use Fred here, just to show him. So two fingers along the thumb side, and you should be able to feel it going pounding, pounding, beating away like this. Oh, and what would be quite good is for you to work out what your resting pulse rate is. Do you know what your resting pulse rate is? Do you? I know what mine is. So when I wake up in the morning, or when I've been sitting down for a period of time, I can take my resting pulse rate, and you have to count how many times it beats in 1 minute. So you can either do it for 1 minute, counting how many times it beats, or you can do it for 15 seconds. Ellie says, why 15? Well, do you know why 15 seconds? Yeah, because you can times it by 4, Ellie, to give you 1 minute. Or you can do it for 30 seconds, and then you only times it by 2. Okay, so that's our resting heart rate. So you can try and find your pulse if you want to. But remember, in first aid, we don't normally check people's pulses, do we? No, because it's quite difficult to check. Remember, we always look for signs of life by looking for them breathing. And if we know them, we can also get closer to them if they're living in the same household as us, and we can feel them breathing and also listen to them breathing. Okay, we have got sidetracked, haven't we? Heart attack. Let's talk about a heart attack. Now, what is it, Ellie? I know I've kind of already told you. Well, as we said, a heart attack is caused by a blockage in the heart. And this is a serious medical emergency, Ellie, in which a supply of blood to the heart is suddenly blocked. And as we said, what number we're going to call? 999. And say we suspect a heart attack. And if there's a lack of blood to the heart, this is going to damage the heart muscle, a bit like the lack of blood to the brain damaged the brain cells. And again, this can be life-threatening because our heart is the one that pumps the blood, which is pumping the oxygen around the body, isn't it? Yeah, okay. Well, she's asking about the symptoms of heart attack. So the symptoms of heart attack, Ellie. Symptoms are, well, it can vary from people to people, but normally they complain, Ellie, of a chest pain right here, right in the centre of the chest. But they might also have a pain up here on their jaw. It might be through their arm, it might be in their back as well, Ellie. And it also gets confused with indigestion. But as soon as they say they've got a pain here or here or here, we're always going to suspect heart attack. They might have a shortness of breath. They might feel very weak, lightheaded, dizzy. And they might feel very scared and have this overwhelming fear that something is not quite right. Now, Ellie, what number are we going to call when we suspect this? 999. Please don't just think because the pain's not here and it's here that it's not a heart attack. It might still be a heart attack. And the only way we ever know is by the medical professionals checking them over. Okay, so if we suspect it, Ellie, we are going to call 999. And then we want to sit them on the floor. And I can't get Ellie, so I called Fred Ellie then. I can't get Fred onto the floor because he looks pretty unconscious at the moment, doesn't he? But if they were conscious, what we're going to try and do is get them onto the floor and we're going to sit them in the W position. And the W position is good because what it's doing is allowing the blood to flow around the body a little bit better. It doesn't put too much pressure on the heart. But also it's getting them on the floor. So if they did go unconscious, Ellie, we could get ready to do CPR. So the first thing we did, Ellie, we called 999 and then we sat them on the floor. Okay, and we just stay with them when we loosen any tight clothing. And if they've got any medication, Ellie, because sometimes they might have medication on them, then we tell them to take it. It has to be their medication they're taking, which could be a spray or some tablets such as aspirin they might take. So when someone has a heart attack, they might also go unconscious, Ellie. And if Fred does go unconscious, remember, we do danger, response. We go, hello. And then we're going to see if he opens his airway and see if he's breathing. So we're going to open his airway like so. And then we're going to look and see if his belly's going up and down. Now, if he's not breathing, we're going to call 999 and we will do CPR. But obviously we need to get Fred to the floor, wouldn't we? But just because they're having a heart attack doesn't mean they're going to go unconscious. Sometimes they don't go unconscious when they're having a heart attack. You just need to sit with them in the W position, loosen that tight clothing from them and just reassure them. But you know you are there just in case you need to be. Okay, we've just covered strokes and heart attacks today. Now please don't worry about these illnesses. These illnesses tend to happen to people that are older, but hopefully we have given you the skills to be able to help anybody in your local community if the need arises. And hopefully we've covered quite a lot of these skills throughout the Star Award and also the Challenge Award. And we'd like to say thank you for listening to us and for joining in. And just before I give you today's challenge, which is our last one, just want to talk about our pet first aid course we're doing. So we've got our little doggy here and Lulu's going to be helping and we've got some dog mannequins. We're going to do a very one-off special for you for a children's pet first aid course and that's going to come, going to tell them, next week. So look out for that. And parents and carers, we will be doing pet first aid qualifications over Zoom as well if you're interested. Challenge number 5. I want you to have a look at the example and your workbook of some hazards around the house. And I want you to make a list of all the hazards that you can find around the house and also what you can do to prevent them from becoming a hazard. Okay, we look forward to receiving all those and we'll send you your certificate. Thank you so much, guys. Please keep safe. Please keep well. Say goodbye, Ellie. Bye.